Tonight's a special treat. As you guys know, we don't have religious sisters here in Flagstaff, but we're part of a church and we have friends. And so, as you know, our model of discipleship is the three aspects of discipleship. You have community, prayer, and mission. And so tonight, following up on the retreat, some of you were on the retreat this past weekend, in which we were kind of drawn into an awareness that God is with us and the gift that our relationship with Him is. And so the idea was, we thought was, how do we make it so it's just not a retreat weekend, but how do we live in that relationship with God like all the time? How do we tap into the Father's love for us? And so I asked the sisters to come to kind of help unpack that for us a little bit. And so tonight we're going to be hearing from Sister Madeline Carmel. She's originally from Washington, but Sister Madeline Carmel of the Father's heart, of the Father's love, of the Father's heart, of the Father's heart. It resonates with them. So she's originally from Washington State, and something unique is sisters typically. They take on a professed name, kind of like a new chapter. Simon becomes Peter, all that kind of stuff. But in her case, her professed name is the name her family gave her, and God's like, they did a great job. Let's keep this shit going. So there's something really beautiful about that. She's been in Arizona since January, and so far today she's very happy because Flagstaff reminds her of Washington in so many ways. So please help me welcome to the Newman Center, Sister Madeline Carmel.
Thanks, Father. Thanks, Father. Thanks, everybody, for coming. So it's really refreshing for me to finally make it to fall. October 23rd, first day of fall, coming up from the desert into this wonderland of beauty and crisp air. So we had a great ride up, smooth. But the car that we didn't bring, I just wanted to tell you about it. So this car's name is Lassie. And last February, we were given Lassie. And this car's like one step away from junk. So we name our cars. So as we're like fishing for a name for this car, we're like, we got it on the Feast of St. Scholastica, so we could name it Scholastica, but that was really weird for this little maroon sedan. And we're like, well, does Scholastica have any like nicknames? And so we're thinking, and then it like popped into my head. I was like, Lassie. So the truth is, none of us wanted to be seen in Lassie. So we didn't really take it anywhere. But there was this one day, Sister Fiat and I really wanted to go on a hike, and it was Lassie or nothing. So we're like, okay, well, let's see how this goes, see if we make it. So we get in the car, and it was really something. So it's maroon car, chipped paint, and it has the sort of tint that like peels off. So it's like peeling off the windows, and like that ceiling fabric is like hanging down. And anyway, so we jump in, we're like, all right, here we go. And we take off, and Sister makes a quick right turn, and like the radio bumps on, and like we're going along. And then I notice, wow, this car has a sunroof. So I'm like, okay, where's the button for the sunroof? Like, if we're having a joyride, we might as well make the most of it. So I find the button, and I like press it, and nothing happens. So I'm like, okay, just a little bit harder. And then it makes this like grunting sound, and the window like inches open a little bit, and there's like dust and leaves like fall down from the sunroof. And so, I mean, I really should have stopped there, but somehow I thought this is going to keep going. So I just like kept going at it, and it got a little bit further. Long story short, the sunroof never closed. And so anyways, we're driving home, and we pull up to a light, and I'm kind of humiliated, that we're seen in this car. And this car pulls up next to us, and the music is like blasting. And as we're sitting there at the light, I sort of like tune in, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's praise and worship. Like, you never hear people blasting praise and worship. And so I turn, and the guy's kind of like sitting back, and huge smile on his face, and he's looking right at me, and he just like sings out the line of the song, like, "The Lord is my shepherd, there's nothing I shall want." And we're like, hey. But truth is, it's never a bad time to call in the Good Shepherd, unless you are not. So this is from Mark chapter 10. They came to Jericho. And as Jesus was leaving Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude, Bartimaeus, a blind beggar, the son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside. And when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And many rebuked him, telling him to be silent. But he cried out all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Now, you'll have to forgive me for cutting this story short because we all know what happens next. But I want to stop here because I want to focus in on something really key. He cried out all the more. So we all know Bartimaeus as a beggar, but in truth, he is much more. Bartimaeus is a man aching, thirsting. When many try to tell him to stop, he cries out all the more. It like fuels his cry and this ache of his heart. This evening, I invite you to join me in exploring something we all share: thirst. Specifically, the thirst of the heart. And we'll look at human thirst, divine thirst, and then gifts of communion and reunion that thirst opens up to us in our daily life. So first, human thirst. I came in touch with my thirsting heart for the first time when I was 12. My family attended a mass for a priest's ordination anniversary, and they were giving out these little holy cards to commemorate the occasion. And so I grabbed one and took it home. And it was beautiful. It was this like olive green card with this cream-colored calligraphy on it. And on it was written the words, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." As I held that light card in my hands and read the quote, I felt it. It was quiet, but very present to me. And at 12, I somehow knew this restlessness that St. Augustine was talking about. And in its quiet way, that sense persisted through high school and then college and then into grad school. The thirst of my heart remained. I was studying to be a dietitian, and I loved my field, the blend of like physiology, biology, and like culinary arts. And I loved it. But I was in the midst of a clinical rotation at the time. And as I spent days sitting at a computer charting, I noticed a restlessness stir in my heart. Deep within, I wanted more. I wanted more like face-to-face relationships. I wanted more prayer and silence in my life. I wanted more Jesus. Like all of it was just coming up. And I realized I didn't just want to feed people, I wanted to feed hearts. I couldn't ignore my thirsting heart anymore, and the question of vocation came alive. So one day I was sitting on my bed, and my mind was busy with thoughts, deliberating for the umpteenth time about the question of my future, and I was getting nowhere. And so reaching for some clarity, or maybe just distraction, I pick up this book that I had recently gotten, and I opened it to the first page, and I read these words. "We must begin with the beginning, you. As a human being, you are athirst, noun, not adjective. Every single choice you make all day long is proof that you seek, you desire, you want, you lack. Nothing is ever enough. You always want more of delightful experiences. Furthermore, you may have noticed that even after the most thrilling experience, a success, a vacation, a party, a date. When you are quiet and alone, you perceive deep down a small voice saying, "Is that all there is? Nothing is enough. You are athirst in the flesh, an incarnated thirst. You yearn for endless beauty and joy, endless love and delight, endless security and happiness." Talk about my heart on a page. This really jumped out at me and confirmed what I knew in my gut. I was made for Jesus, and I won't be satisfied unless I give him everything. The truth is, every single one of our hearts knows this thirst, and we feel it in different ways. So perhaps you experience it as a longing to be seen and received, maybe a restlessness or dissatisfaction, an ache to belong, a hunger for more in your life. Sometimes it's not clear what the thirst is for, but we feel it. We may try to satisfy or simply quiet it in different ways too. We may even try to distract ourselves from it because it's painful to be reminded of. But no amount of money or pleasure or attention or success seems to fully satisfy it. At the end of the day, like that excerpt says, the thirst is still there. The thrill fades and the thirst is still there. So even at the most basic level, in our bodies, we see thirst has a certain persistence. When we're dehydrated, our bodies give us thirst as a signal to drink water. And we can ignore it, but it won't go away. It'll get our attention in other ways. A headache, a grumpy mood, you know what it does. Thirst reminds us that I need something outside of myself to be alive. On the heart level, it's the same. So this ache, longing, desire, however you name it in your heart, is telling you something very important. We need something more than ourselves to be fully alive. There's one night I'll never forget. It was my first winter in the convent, and I was walking across Manhattan on a frigid December night with about a dozen sisters, and we were returning to our convent after an event at St. Patrick's Cathedral. We were chatting happily and energetically in twos and threes as we're walking down the sidewalk. And as we crossed the street, I caught sight of two young women on the corner. And one of them was facing us. And I saw her, and she was heavily made up and dressed up for a night out. And it seemed to me that she wanted so much to be noticed. And as we're briskly walking by, I just hear, her say, with this longing, "You all are so beautiful." And like, we're bundled up head to toe and like scarves, it's dark, you can barely see us. But I hear this, it falls on the buzz of conversation. No one else heard it, I heard it. And it grabbed me because there was this longing in her voice, and it was actually painful to hear. Standing on the street corner, this young woman's heart cried out, so much like Bartimaeus. I don't know her story, but the few words she spoke laid bare a deep thirst for something she recognized she didn't have. Bartimaeus recognized Jesus' presence, but who did she really see? A deeper beauty was calling to her. Jesus is the beauty to which you are so attracted, wrote St. John Paul II. It is Jesus that you seek when you dream of happiness. He is waiting for you when nothing else you find satisfies you. It is he who provokes you with that thirst for fullness that will not let you settle for compromise. The thirst of the human heart is to be in a face-to-face relationship with God. Now, some of you just came off retreat, and perhaps you encountered God's love in a new way. And as you seek to live from the graces of retreat, I offer to you this key for a daily life of prayer. Stay thirsty, and let it bring you to God over and over and over. In Psalm 63, thirst becomes prayer. O God, you are my God, for you I long. For you my soul is thirsting. My body pines for you, like a dry, weary land without water. The prayer of the church, the liturgy of the hours, prayed by priests, religious, many lay people, places these words on our lips at Christmas and Easter, the days where Christ reveals his presence among us, God with us, Emmanuel, as if to say, look, the one you're longing for is here. God places thirst in your heart precisely to draw you to him each day. And it may be as simple as like 10 minutes of silence, put your phone away, and like get in touch with that thirst in your heart and bring it to God. Receive his love for you right there. And it can increase from there to 20 minutes or 30 minutes a day, to stopping in for adoration. There was one day, I was with my family in the spring, and we were at the beach, one of my favorite places, and I stepped aside with my breviary to pray evening prayer from the Liturgy of the Hours. So I go over to this big piece of driftwood, and I sit down, and my nieces and my siblings are just kind of around, so I'm like, I'll just step aside here and quietly pray evening prayer. And so I sit down, and I open up my breviary, and my 3-year-old niece, Nora, comes running over, and she goes, why are you praying? And I said, because I want to spend time with Jesus. And she says, I want to spend time with puppies and dogs. And right at that moment, she was looking past me at this lady walking her dog on the beach, and like all she wanted was to pet that dog. But it's good to be honest about, what am I actually thirsting for? Little or big, profound, simple. And yeah, you, just as you are with your thirst, God loves. He loves you. He loved you into being. And at the beginning of your life, no matter the circumstances of your birth or your family, God said yes to you. And he willed you into this world in love. He chose you and crafted every part of you and is attentive to you. You are sacred, body and soul, and you are held in this infinite and most tender of loves. You are loved by your Heavenly Father, and you are good in his eyes. But he is not content to simply look on you with love. No, here we make a new discovery. God also thirsts for you. This jumps off the page for me in John chapter 7. On the last and greatest day of the feast, Jesus stood up and exclaimed to all around, "If anyone thirst, let him come to me and drink." At first glance, Jesus' exclamation seems pretty abrupt and just out of the blue. But if you learn the context, it begins to make some more sense. So the Jewish people annually celebrated a feast called the Feast of Tabernacles to recall God's instruction to them to establish a tent or a tabernacle during their 40 years in the desert to symbolize that he desired to dwell with them. And this reminder of his presence with them was like water in the desert. So on this particular day, during this feast, Jesus himself, the living water, the Messiah, stands in the midst of his thirsting children. And upon each face, he sees the thirst written. This one thirsts to be seen. This one thirsts to belong. Another is thirsting to give their love. And Jesus' heart is burning within him because he knows that he is the fulfillment of all they long for. And so we witness this great moment when God himself cannot hold his thirst in any longer. "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink," Jesus sees you in your thirst. He knows its breadth and depth in you. He knows its history of expressions in you. He planted this thirst in your heart to draw you into a loving relationship with him. For he thirsts to live in a communion of love with you. And this has been his plan from the very beginning. So human thirst and God thirst. Here's where we come to a gift that thirst opens up to us. The meeting of that human thirst with divine thirst in a communion of love. This is what baptism is all about. So Jesus' baptism in the Jordan, where he made the waters holy for all who would come after, as he comes up out of the water, Scripture says, he saw the heavens opened above him, and the Spirit descending upon him like a dove, and a voice came from heaven. You are my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. At your baptism, God united himself with your soul and joyfully proclaimed these same words over you. You are my beloved Son. You're my beloved daughter, in whom I am well pleased. Pleasing not for anything you can do or accomplish, but simply because you are. Your identity as his beloved son or daughter is marked permanently on your soul, and nothing can take it away. No pain, no sin, no struggle. And yet, we know God created us free. So, while we cannot touch our identity as his beloved children, we do have a choice before us as how we engage our thirsty hearts. Children have a really beautiful way of living their thirst for love without shame. One of our sisters tells a story of waking up one day in a really bad mood that she just couldn't shake. And she said she's walking around like one of those cartoons with a storm cloud over her head, and it's just perpetual. And so later in the day, a sister said, hey, do you want to take a walk? And so she kind of reluctantly says yes. And so they go to this small city park. And when they get there, this little girl who's there with her grandma sees the sisters and gets really excited. So she comes over and starts to play with them. And she's having a great time until the sisters say that they have to go home now. And so they say goodbye and they turn away, they start walking, and this little girl was on the swing. She jumps off and she throws her arms out and shouts, hey, love me. And sister was like, wow, she just summed up my life in 3 words. Hey, love me. Sometimes in the midst of life and stresses, we forget that we were made for a communion of love. And so in God's mercy, he created our hearts so that at least one thing would serve as a nudge back to him, our thirst. And sometimes little girls at the park. The truth is, nothing but God's love will fill us completely. Thirst is like this huge arrow pointing the way up to God, drawing us ever forward, seeking, asking, knocking. And when we have turned away from communion to pursue other things to satisfy that thirst in our hearts, thirst is like a built-in homing device. It helps us find our way back to him. And so we're made for a communion of love, and when we choose something else, another gift comes to us, the gift of reunion. And in some ways, this is a more marvelous gift than the first. The parable of the prodigal son is an extravagant display of such a joyful reunion with God our Father. And there are layers of rich symbolism in here, but I just want to focus on 2 things. The thirst of the prodigal son and the unconditional love of the Father who receives him back into relationship. At the beginning, we see the younger son set his eyes on the inheritance coming to him from his father, believing that possessing this will satisfy him. In blatant disregard for his father, he says, Father, give me the share of the estate that should come to me. And taking it, he goes and he spends it all freely on his every whim, seeking only to satisfy his desires of the moment. Then the gospel says, when he had freely spent everything, a severe famine struck that country, and he found himself in dire need. The pleasures he sought so vigorously failed him, leaving him at rock bottom. So when his thirst was most raw, his mind turned homeward, and he discovered it's his Father's love that he was thirsting for this whole time. In his battered state, a restored relationship seems too much to hope for, but if he could at least live there like one of the servants, that would be enough. So in this moment, he makes a rightly ordered, life-transforming response to his thirst. I will arise and go to my Father. And what an extravagant reunion we witness. This is from the gospel. While he was still a long way off, his Father caught sight of him and was filled with compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But his father ordered his servants, quickly bring the finest robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Take the fattened calf and slaughter it. Then let us celebrate with a feast, because this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. In that split second between these words and the Father's quickly, I imagine the Father's heart must have thrilled to break the good news to his son in this moment. That's just the thing. It's not a matter of being worthy. Son is who you are, and no one can take that away from you. This word will never change. No matter how you or I have strayed, our identity and belonging as beloved children of the Father remains solidly intact. You belong to him, period. And if we've fallen, the second we remember this truth and rise, our Father is already running to meet us. The sacrament of confession is a joyful reunion. We are blessed that it's so readily available to us. I encourage you, incorporate it into your life of prayer, perhaps going each month. Here, full of compassion, God embraces us. And each time we repent of our sins and return to his love, he gives the ring, the robe, the fattened calf, the party, all of it. You're worth all of it. What extravagant love. Brothers and sisters, this is our Father. As Pope John Paul II said, he is waiting for you when nothing else you find satisfies you. Though the Son may have covered over his thirst with empty pursuits, his Father's thirst never wavered, never waned. He longed for and looked for his Son each and every day. God leaves us free to choose him or turn away from him. And the reunion is all the sweeter when it rises from our free choice to receive his love. We too can rise and go to our Father. I'd like to share with you Natasha's story. Before meeting our sisters, Natasha sought healing in different forms after her experience of abortion. 12-step programs, acupuncture, self-help books, and affirmations. She said every morning she would look at herself in the mirror and say affirmations 15 times, but this didn't make her feel better about herself. While she had stopped going to church years earlier, sometimes she would stop in at a nearby Catholic church and just sit. One afternoon, she spotted one of our brochures called Ocean of Mercy, Hope and Healing After Abortion. When she called our sisters, she shared that her heart was broken, and as much as she tried, she just couldn't fix her life. It was too much to bear. The sisters received her with love and compassion melting away the darkness and the shame and the attitude of thinking she had to heal on her own. She met other women who were on the same journey of healing and received love and encouragement from them as well. In time, Natasha returned to the sacrament of confession and the Eucharist. And reflecting on her journey, she told the sisters, "My broken heart was calling out to Jesus. I've learned that I cannot heal myself. Only God can heal my wounds. And I have to persevere on this journey to receive the healing I need." What a courageous witness. Natasha, just like the prodigal son, received the grace to see that it's only in reunion with God that true healing and fulfillment flows. And this is the promise that God holds out to you tonight. We've looked at the reality that each of our hearts is a living thirst, and also the wonder that God thirsts for us. We've looked at the gifts that this opens up to us in our daily life, the gift of communion that comes from our baptism, and then the gift of reunion that's offered to us every single day to keep us growing. Living in his love, we can be thirsty without shame. So, a couple thoughts on how to apply this to daily life. As I mentioned before, prayer is a place to bring your thirst to God, to spend time in quiet with God and recognize, what is that thirst? And to anchor yourself in the reality that you're a beloved child of God and that he sees you in love right now and that you're safe to bring your thirst. So, practicals. Can set aside, even just 10 minutes a day of silence. Place yourself before the gaze of the Father who loves you and speak your thirst to him. Bring it to him. He made you. He sees that thirst. He wants to hear it from your own lips. The father of the prodigal son, remember, has another son, and he says to him, "You are always with me, and everything I have is yours." This is true for you. So every day, when you bring your thirst to God in prayer, know that everything he has is yours. So ask. Ask for what you're thirsting for from him. And then confession. You can make it a goal to go to confession once a month. And it could be for mortal sins, but also the venial sins of everyday life, like impatience or gossip or those kind of things. But coming to the Father frequently with those things on our hearts helps us to stay with him in relationship so that we can receive his love and all he wants to give us. When Bartimaeus cried out his thirst, Jesus responded with a question. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus says to you and me tonight, "What do you want me to do for you?" What brought you here tonight? Was it your thirst? What are you thirsty for? Tonight, let your thirst bring you home. And do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to cry out your thirst to Jesus. He sees you and he loves you. Jesus is here, the living water, and he's saying to you, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. The sisters and I are just going to sing you a short song. And while we're singing, I invite you just to ponder that question that Jesus asked. What do you want me to do for you? Become aware of what might that thirst on your heart be? And let this be a little moment to bring that to Jesus as we're singing. Thanks. In every doubt, you are the answer, you are the fount. In confusion, when evil surrounds, you steady me, your grace abounds. Come to the water, come and receive. Come to the water, come, find all you need. Let your truth wash over me. Let your truth wash over me. Streams of living water, heal me, Lord. Pour out your Spirit, lead me, Lord. Streams of living water, heal me, Lord. Pour out your Spirit, lead me, Lord. You are my resting place. You are my resting place. You are my resting place, oh Lord. You are my resting place. You are my resting place. You are my resting place, oh Lord. Come to the